Ciao, welcome to Celebrating Culture. In this episode, we're going to focus on how Italians and Sicilians honor their ancestors. Going back centuries in Sicily, Sicilians would have processions, often carrying large statues throughout the streets. St. Agatha is one of them. The statue of St. Agatha is brought out into the cathedral and the churches around Catania.
È parso bene, infatti, allo Spirito Santo e a noi, di non imporvi altro obbligo.
In Kenner, Louisiana, the procession of St. Rosalia goes back to the 1890s. St. Rosalia is the patron saint of Palermo and called upon during plagues and pandemics such as COVID. The procession leaves the Church of Our Lady of Perpetual Help and does 2 miles throughout the neighborhood, stopping at the St. Rosalia Cemetery. The priest and some of the parishioners walk barefoot. Both men and women take turns carrying the statue of St. Rosalia. In Sicily, funeral processions from the church to the cemetery started in the 16th century and are called the dirge. A newspaper from the early 1900s mentions Vincent Marsalla's dirge in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Today in New Orleans, the terms jazz funeral and second line are used. The term second line is referring to the mourners, as opposed to the immediate family. Another important Sicilian custom is November 2nd, which can be called All Souls Day or the Day of the Dead, as a day of prayer and remembrance for the faithful departed. All Souls Day is celebrated by the Sicilians of Monroe, Louisiana. This remembrance can also be celebrated on All Saints' Day, for which many Catholic schools is a holiday. On either of these days, Italians go to the cemetery and have a blessing on the graves of their ancestors, often accompanied with food, as in the case in New Orleans. Families visit and clean the grave sites. Home altars are decorated with family photos and candles, and children are gifted a special basket called the canastro of chocolates, pomegranate, and other gifts from their ancestors. Because of the gifting of sugary sweets and the emphasis on sugar puppet decorations, the commemoration day has spurred local Sicilian events, such as Notte di Zucchero, or Night of Sugar, in which communities celebrate the dead. Perhaps this is how our own trick-or-treating got started. Our ancestry is personal. In fact, many parts of this documentary series have been to honor my own ancestors. In this episode, we will interview members of my mother's side and father's side on how our ancestors are honored. We'll go to Gino's Restaurant, which was opened by my mother's parents in 1964 and operated today by my Aunt Phyllis and Uncle Frank. On my dad's side, my cousins work with a nonprofit. That nonprofit honors my Aunt Teresa. Aunt Teresa was a dedicated healthcare professional and very instrumental in raising funds for cancer patients to cover their extra expenses. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.